Welcome to the Esports Central podcast. It's episode number 42, and it is for the 16th of May 2019. A good year, but not a good week for us. We've all been having a tough week, so we hope that we can let loose on this podcast. Ricks and fools, give some nice information. Sorry, got that the wrong way around.
Factual information.
Yes.
Factual information because we're a news podcast.
News, okay.
Well-researched PhD doctorate level stuff, you know?
Yeah, something like that.
My week isn't that bad. Oh, sorry.
And I would like to introduce myself, but Camille keeps interrupting me.
We all know that Camille's got to be the most important in the podcast
Obviously,
he takes
the
part in.
worst.
I'm in the middle of Glenn's Discord chat right now. I'll have you guys know.
Okay, you're the center of his universe. Glenn, is
For
he the
sure.
center of yours?
Yes.
I knew it.
You know, that setup was just, I had to go with it. I'll go with
I'm
it.
sorry. I would like to get comment from Gutter Lily on this one. They are BFFs in your eyes, aren't they?
Well, it seems to be, but I also just want to say Glenn's got this really intense stare at his webcam.
He does. It's worrying, actually.
He's in the center of my screen, and it's just like, wow.
Now,
Feeling
see,
kind of
I have a
intimidated
great
right
sense
now.
of having calm in the sense of not ready. He has this smug look on his face all the time.
That's just his resting smug face, basically. Right? That's what Camille's got.
Glenn is my BFF confirmed.
So, Prof, where do you fall on all of this? Are they best mates or mortal enemies?
Isn't love started through like original hatred?
Oh yeah, this is true. Hey, it's that whole playground thing
That
where
was
the one little kid keeps throwing stones at the other little kid, and then 15 years later they get married.
Yeah, it's like he doth protest too much.
Wow.
Oh my God. What a great start. I can just tell today's
Interesting to
full of
see.
energy.
It's
I'm
gonna
so
work.
ready.
We've got energy, which is surprising again because we've all had a rather wretched week, but maybe this is
We
the
have.
outlet we needed. We're going to talk about esports. Always, we're of course with esportscentral.co.za, where you can go and get esports news of what's happening in South Africa and also internationally. We're going to start off with some international news. We did mention that we talk about news, but only in the very loosest sense. It's mostly opinion, but you know what? You'll get to hear from us. We're all people who've been involved in esports for a very long time. If we add up all the years, it could be like that bullshit marketing that you see where it's like they have
Oh,
200
we've got
years
it.
of experience or some shit like that.
That is a new intro, actually. Welcome to the Esports Podcast. Oh, wow, I fucked it up.
Wow,
But you
okay,
know what I
Glenn.
mean? Just add the slogan part in. That was what I was trying to do. That
Don't
was
worry,
embarrassing.
Jingle.
guys. Just remember, the first time Camille hosted the podcast, he forgot his own name.
I
That
didn't.
is true.
I didn't.
That is
There's
actually
no proof of that
Sean,
shit.
Thank you so much for the save. Yes, that is actually.
Yeah, I was overseas at the time. I thought I'd left it in capable hands, and it turned out he couldn't remember his own name.
Good times.
Shocking.
Okay, well, let's hit the international news. You're going first, Carmel. Now that we've roasted you, you warmed up.
So the only news that's capable of making it onto this podcast is, of course, the most important news, the best news, the Dota 2 news. Okay, the MDL major took place last week in Paris, in Disneyland. It was the Disneyland major, and it was Dota-wise. I think we had the single best day of Dota I think I've ever seen in the history of Dota. There was a day where all the top 8 teams played each other, and every single game went to game 3 of the best of 3 series, and they were all like epic. I think arguments are being made at the moment that we have the strongest core of like in the Dota scene ever at the moment. The level is just insanely high. I mean, we have Team Secret, which is like the team who won, and they at even a level above the rest who are also insane at the moment. So the event itself was amazing. I sat Friday and Saturday the whole day watching Dota, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, so the Dota part of the event was perfect, right? 10 out of 10, Disney happy ending story there. But the major itself was arguably one of the worst. I'm not going to say the
I
worst.
knew there was going to be like a button there.
There's-
You had
because
this
there's a lot
beautiful
of bad
speech
events
how
that
great it was.
Okay, so let me just give you some tidbits of what happened there, okay? The premium seating, at this point, actually, I've read so many Reddit threads. I've never been to an event myself, but I've read so many threads about premium seating being a waste of money. The premium seating was $20 more than the normal seating, and it was 2 rows in front of where the normal seating is to look at high screens on, like, buckled down plastic chairs. Like, if I could get a photo for you guys, it's like plastic chairs, okay? That's one thing. The major was in a tent. not a stadium.
A literal
obviously it was
tent.
in Disneyland, they had to makeshift the thing, but it was in a fucking tent, right? There was also no side content, like nothing else going on other than just Dota at the event. So you're sitting there for 12 hours on plastic chairs watching Dota.
This sounds
Again,
like
it's-
Fire Festival, but like the Dota version, really.
Fire
Basically,
Festival didn't actually happen though. Let's be fair. So,
That is
like,
okay.
MDL
That is
did
true.
actually
It's like a camp.
and obviously there's other things like the fact that it was in Disneyland means that all the food and stuff you buy is in Disneyland, so you know how much you're gonna pay. Break bank again there. So there's a guy who made a super ragey Reddit post, of course, but 4,500 upvotes about how shit the event actually was. But now, obviously, with anything that has to do with Dota 2, we have to full circle it back to why the major was shit. Because who's the guys who give people major status? Valve. And what does Valve ask of you to host the major? Money, prize money. You put down 500,000, they'll put down 500,000. $1 million massive tournament. Stream was huge, and the stream was huge. 200k English viewers, more than 200k Russian viewers. But if your only criteria for hosting a major is money, then what are you gonna get at the major? Plastic chairs in a fucking tent. That's what the major is now.
I mean, like MDL has run like many events in the past, but I don't think they've ever run anything like that was this size. So
What
know,
was the size? Like
It
how
was-
big?
I
how
mean,
many
this is a
people were there?
major.
How many
It's
people
a-
were actually there?
I mean, it's like this is one of the biggest events in the Dota calendar. So it's like they've run a lot of smaller events, but like to give them control of this one, and then it's being run in France at Disneyland. Like I don't think they just expected the kind of environment they were working in.
Yeah, credit to the MDL guys. I think they're not in an easy position in terms of like what they had to host the major, because obviously being in Disneyland, I'm sure there was a lot of complications. Anybody who's worked in events like will know the kind of craziness that goes on behind the scene. But they have run an event before in China that went okay. Obviously, it was in China, so we don't get the Reddit drama. So I don't know how good the event was. But I don't know. It's wild. Even the casters desk thing was like at the beginning. Red Eye caught them on stream swapping the panel desk and the casters going to sit in the same desk, and the screens was like tilted down like this. It was like VS Masters. It looked
I
like.
saw those pictures actually. Yeah, that was crazy, man. It's like
Nice.
2 weeks of neck ache after that, eh? It's like
And-
literally the casters are.
You know, I don't have like I'm sitting at home watching the major. It makes no difference to my life if it's a fuck up at the event or not. But at the same time, like I'm a bit worried when Valve release their new rules for the DPC for next season, and the only thing they want to change is okay, we're gonna control format now, and then it's like, oh, if you're sending proposals, also send us like how you're gonna stadium with that kind of thing, etc., etc. And that's what they said in their thing. It's like, you know, seating, etc. And I was like, what? If you don't have criteria, how are you gonna make sure that this doesn't happen again? Like
I always thought that they did, though. That's the crazy thing, because you know, like with CS:GO majors, for instance, it was always a bidding process. I know there's only 2 of them in a year, which is very different to, you know, what major means is different in CS to Dota, but.
Yeah.
It's still like I thought all of that was actually handled, and if that's actually the case in CS, that might also explain why the Faceit major was such a fuck up.
Face it, major fiasco. I also thought so. I thought like, okay, we're seeing this 1-page blog post on the internet from Valve, but surely behind the scenes, you know, there's guys talking, making sure this is fine, making sure. I just see Prophecy nodding his head. Clearly, it's not the
But
case
also-
if you have
but
plastic
also-
chairs in
but
a
also
tent.
think about it. Eventing as well. Like so many people don't understand like what goes behind an event, so that everyone thinks they can do it. And so, and it especially becomes that way when they go, oh, I have to do a lot of like really small events. Then they go, well, I mean, if we've done that, just take the same thing, double up
No.
everything, and we're totally sorted. Like, absolutely not. Like, and that's the problem with events, and that's why you'll see a lot of issues like across. Obviously, it's not even just an esports thing. I mean, but just people don't understand how much work goes into eventing, and they underestimate it. And it's also the last thing they think about. And then you end up getting like, you know, a shit show. And they go like, oh, wait, I don't understand it. We've done this thing before, just like half the size. Why is it so difficult?
Because they
'Cause,
don't
like-
scale.
Eventing does not scale in the slightest. It is not a thing. Not a thing.
So you got it out your system, Carmel. Do you feel better?
I did, but I want to, you know, I know I'm Mr. Negative, complain about Valve every week, but I want to end on a positive note. I think Dota, professional Dota at the moment is the best I think I've ever seen it. It was so good. LGD didn't win the tournament, so I'm a bit upset about that. And VP again went out, but it was the best Dota I've ever seen. That 12-hour Saturday of just endless Dota watching was one of the best Saturdays I've ever had, hands down.
And we
I
can
feel
actually
sad for him.
confirm because he was in our WhatsApp group telling us how great the Dota was, and we were like, none of us give any shits, but okay. We're
On a
glad you're
side note,
enjoying yourself.
I was actually meant to go to the BVD festival. Firstly, I'm an idiot because I thought it was Saturday and Sunday, so I didn't bother on Saturday. Then afterwards, on Sunday, I look at the thing and I was like, oh, it was only a one-day event, but I was like, I watched 12 hours of Dota. Nah, fuck that thing.
You know, I'm actually going to admit this, but I also thought it was a 2-day event, and I was very much considering phoning you on Sunday, going, "Hey, dude, do you want to go to the BVD Gaming Festival?" And
Yeah,
I went
let's
and looked at the
go.
schedule. I'm like, okay, I guess not.
That's not an option.
But you know, on this podcast, we are fact checkers. We make sure everything is 100%
apparently we
would
didn't
never
realize
give
that.
false information. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Well, to our credit, we were reading a 1-page article on their website that was literally, if it was printed out, was probably like 50 pages. 'Cause
Yeah, I was
how
about
much
to-
scrolling was there to try and find all that information?
Wait, I'm
eh?
gonna find the website. I'm gonna look at the fucking thing.
No,
again.
yeah, no, it was long. It was a long read.
Yes,
Very,
it
very
kind of
long.
was. Because like the rules were in there, like everything really, the toilet procedure was in there, like everything. Yeah, it was
Moving on.
crazy.
I'm gonna find the thing while you guys are waiting.
Okay, well, while we're waiting, I'd actually like to go to the next topic, but if you were
No,
fast,
no,
we
I
could
say
jump
go
this in.
to the next topic and then I'll find it eventually.
Yeah, and then like everybody will have forgotten about it by then. Jeez,
Yeah,
why are you
like-
so shit,
I
Carmel?
know.
All right,
Wait.
I found it.
Drop it in the
Connor
dock,
has
quick.
the worst ideas.
All right, I'm linking now, like a fucking G. Oh,
Where?
yeah.
Is it in
Yeah,
the
I'm
doc?
coming, it's coming. It's in the topics. There we go. Look at it. I'm a genius.
You're a genius. Okay, we'll give you that.
I think that's a strong. I think that's a strong.
I mean, I
statement,
copy
man.
pasted something. That's like next level technology.
So scrolling. Yeah, okay, it's not as long as I remembered. It's making you and me look bad. We shouldn't have done this, Carmel.
Okay, we cutting this. Fuck it. It's gone. It wasn't-
We're
I'm
all
just
about
leaving it in, eh?
authenticity. You take the good and the bad. You take it all.
We'll pretend this is a live broadcast. I don't want to edit it.
I
Wait,
just
that's
feel
like,
like
what do you mean? I'm scrolling now. It's 1,
they had
two,
all the games in one
3,
thing.
4. It's
Page.
5 pages of information. That's fucking insane. I'm sorry.
I mean, you
If
know
you
I mean,
printed
it's
it
good
7.
information. Don't get me wrong, Bravado. If you're listening to this, I like your webpage, and if I was a player, it's very informative. But if you're an idiot on a podcast, it's a bit hard to like pay attention to all of it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, you've
moving
gotten
on
that
to the next one.
and Valve out of your system, Carmel. Okay, you good now, bro? You good?
Hundreds.
Okay, prof.
So the drama around Denial continues to grow as the team that was the South African CSGO team overseas, it's now ATK, obviously. The brand that picked them up had a bit of a shady deal, or let's just say some shady stories
This is
floating
the
around.
previous org, yes?
Yeah,
Denial.
previous org. Seems like the new owners aren't much better.
Shocked.
There's
shocked.
a rather
Shocked,
lengthy
alright.
post by Nathan, a guy plays Call of Duty Call of Duty, was supposed to be part of the Call of Duty World League team for Denial, and he posted a tweet longer where, amongst other things, the team that was meant to play at an event got to the event, they'd had 1 day booked for a hotel. 1 day.
For
is
an
what Denial-
entire event.
Yeah, for an entire event. Denial booked them 1 day. So the players had to pay out of their own pocket. Then, again, the usual story, unpaid salaries. I think we're going on 10 weeks of unpaid salaries now. So each player's out about $10,000. We have players not getting any assistance from the actual org when they, try to sort this out. They get a phone call where allegedly the owner of the team, Zach Nathan, sits there with his lawyer, and they suddenly changed the salaries that the players are supposed to be paid. In that it's not $15,000 anymore; it's now $5,000. That's an interesting change.
Easy discounts.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that's like, or this is an organization that's aiming for a Call of Duty World League spot. Those things are $20 million. how in the hell do they think they've got any shot with this kind of stuff? And it's like the news just keeps spreading and spreading.
Mm.
I mean, it was probably about 5 minutes ago. There was another story dropped by a French organization about money also owed to them. We've got Kevin Hitt from Deserter. He's writing a piece right now, and he said anybody that's got any extra details, please come forward. So that'll be out there. We've got.
I think he's actually with Upcomer now, not
is he
Deserter
Upcomer
anymore. Yeah.
I do apologize for that. So, I mean, his post is basically like he's in an investigative piece on denial. If you have any more information, please contact him. So that's
And
pretty
the thing
scary
is,
stuff.
It's such a bad look for an org. I mean, especially given their past histories and the previous owners did the exact same thing. You come in, firstly, you state, because they didn't have to, but they stated they're going to. They actually said the new owner said they're going to deal with all the past issues from the previous owners. They said we're going to come in, we're busy in contacts with all the different sort of players from the previous org that got screwed over, and we're going to honor those deals. They didn't have to, but they came in with the whole "we're the good guys" thing, and then before long, they're the exact same thing, and it's just like, come on.
Might actually be worse. They might actually be worse. That's how.
Also,
shady.
like one of the things that I saw towards the end of last week or was the beginning of this week. Like it's all a haze to me, to be honest. But there was this picture that the owner posted. It was like fancy cars and talking about helicopters or something. And I know like his money is not necessarily the org's money, but it's just such a bad look in light of everything that's been going on around it.
Like what you're talking about right there is what started all of this.
Wow.
Because I saw it and I was like, oh.
And then like one of his players or something was just like, why are you talking about fast cars and helicopters when you haven't paid your players? It's just like
that's the gloves off.
This reminds me
gloves off talk.
of a place that I worked at before. It's like, Joe, we're not doing well, guys. We're not making any money. No raises this year. And then like a week later, the boss pulls in a Porsche, and it's like, okay, but you are.
Oh, yeah.
I can think of esports organizations dropping the same story about how they can't pay people right now. Shit's a bit tight, waiting for the money to come through.
That's actually so weird because I had a boss where it was also like, yeah, there's money troubles, and then she swapped a Mercedes-Benz SUV for a Audi SUV.
This actually,
money troubles.
there is a precedent for this in South African esports. There was the org, which I will not name, that could not pay prize pool for a Dota tournament, and then we saw the guy from the org going to TwitchCon. So here I am styling with, what was it, Pokemon, and oh, geez, okay.
Because he definitely thought about that tweet, and he thought this is gonna.
Yeah. Nobody would notice, of course.
But this topic of this denial not paying, I mean, it's the same shitty story about orgs abusing players that we've heard time and time again. But the denial one is like particularly funny because imagine the players thinking, hey, we got new owners and shit here. Lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. Not in this case.
So what's interesting in this as well, sorry, I jumped in there, is right back when the Bravado team joined Denial, there was a topic over on the CSGO subreddit where somebody was actually outlining all of these things. And the topic didn't really get that much. I upvoted it, but only 313 upvotes, so it wasn't really that popular. But this guy actually put out all the information explaining the sequence of events with the old owners, the new owners, that sort of thing. Because I guess people at the time were a little bit worried, going, well, Bravado had just made a name for themselves. Shame, are these guys going to go over to this org and get wrecked? I did privately reach out to one of the guys from BVD and ask them about it. I'm not going to say what he said, but basically they're okay. Nothing happened to them. So, if you're a South African esports fan and you're wondering about the ATK guys, that they get wrecked, well, no. But no details on that, but no. So we're good. And at least they were
like a short-term contract or something that didn't really have much hold on them.
Yeah.
They didn't say like we didn't actually sign contract.
How many South African teams actually do get paid? Maybe that's a topic for a different day.
Yeah.
We need like South African esports.
In South African esports, how
Not many
teams and in which games do they actually
It
get
depends on how many say they get paid and how many actually get paid.
Because most of them like end up paying for their own jerseys. Like,
oh, I did that
I'm
back
gonna
in the day.
Here and say unpopular opinion: the South African esports scene is an amateur scene. Hot take.
Ooh, well, I actually agree with you. At best, they're semi-professional. I mean, if you're getting paid like
semi-professional to amateur.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
getting like $2,000 a month from your org or whatever, that doesn't really make you professional. You are getting paid, but if you can't live off it, you're not really a professional.
It
I mean, in
suck
Dota
health.
terms, if you're struggling to keep up 5k MMR and you're calling yourself a pro, it's like, big yikes.
Yeah, Dota does have that distinction where it actually has a number value that you can go, well, if you're not in this group of, this skill group, then you're probably not that good. And it's kind of evident, isn't it? Like other games,
For
it's
sure.
a little bit more abstract.
Is there no rank?
So
Well,
League of
there's a
Legends
rank
is pretty specific. Like if you're not challenger, then you can't be like no one will take you seriously in League of Legends specifically.
Yeah.
But then that obviously fluctuates a bit between challenger and masters because it's like kind of there's only X amount of players that can actually sit in the challenger.
Yes, we know you have an
But-
inferior rank system. It's okay.
Wait, didn't you say you're gonna start playing League of Legends?
Yes, I heard
did.
that.
You did.
Okay,
on
let me
Twitter?
tell you a story about
what
that.
What did you
okay?
say?
I did say that.
story.
I
What
did
did you
say
say?
I did say that. No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. But
Shocked.
let me tell you a story about my Steam library, okay? I have like maybe 20 games, and every time I buy a new game, it's like, okay, I'm going to buy this game and I'm going to play it. I'm super excited for
And
it.
he never does.
And what do I end up doing? I just go back and play Dota fucking 2, dude. Once you start the crack cocaine, you can never stop.
It's me with CSGO, bro. Own all
I
the
got
games.
out of League. I actually managed to stop playing League. I've been clean from
And-
playing
And
League.
look at what a nice
for
wholesome person
for
you
probably
turned out.
like a year. It might be, I think it's about a year. And now Gmax and Carmel are going to drag me back in to what I broke free from. So
See,
Is that
thank you for
arguably
Can't
the most
believe.
toxic trio of party members ever?
It's
Probably.
going to be wonderful.
But
God, wait.
what you guys don't actually know, like since Glenn got clean, obviously it takes a huge toll on your body. Like if you're watching the video and not listening to the audio version, actually Glenn is a 14-year-old girl, but like in the last year of stopping with the league, it's changed her voice so badly. I mean, you still got the hair.
From all the
I just can't
shouting.
help it. I'm
Wait,
saying
yeah.
he now because of all the changes you've undergone because of your.
Isn't it supposed to be like before meth, like we're quitting meth and then on meth? Isn't it like the other way around supposed to be, Axe?
Before meth and then on meth, and then it should say not even once.
That's the
This got so far. This got so far.
What were we talking about? Actually, I don't even remember.
Denial. We will deny it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're
but just
done with
to
that.
wrap up, What I did want to say is, and it was actually the point that you were saying with going back to another denial and issues and how we were all saying we were quite worried about Bravado choosing denial when the former
We did
Bravado
say it
team
on the
choosing
podcast.
denial.
I mean, we did. Say,
Yeah.
I think you actually brought it up, saying that it was like extremely dodgy at the time.
Yeah, especially because at the time also Bravado was also trying to keep the players as well. So it's kind of like, it was a place that an org that they knew and they still chose to go denial. But having said that as well, and I mean, luckily for the guys, the teams that it did work out for them, but like, especially in esports, the number of times that people are willing to risk so much just for that shot at it, like their dream. And we've spoken about this before as well. And obviously I understand when it's like this thing that you've been working so hard for is like right in front of you and you kind of ignore all the risks, you're going to get fucked. Like that's what's going to happen. And the thing is, at the end of the day, it's really hard to feel sorry when someone goes, I'm going to join an org that literally has a terrible reputation. I'm going to join because whatever,
Just to
I just
stay
really
in
want
the
this
game.
game. And then, Pikachu face. Like, come on. Like, again, I'm not defending the guys. I'm not saying what they're doing is right at all. But, like, also, let's all be, like, you also have to take responsibility for, like, choosing to put yourself in that situation where you're now, like, losing out on $10,000 or whatever. But, you know what I mean? Like, don't put yourself in a
Yeah,
situation,
but then
especially when there's...
defense, you're right. What you're saying is completely right. But in the defense, is like these are like okay, like Bravado. It's all these like young kids, right? It's like predatory practice in the first place. Like yes, you can say that the guys they should know this org has a bad rep, they shouldn't sign. But at the same time, it's like it is a predatory practice. It's like a bit victim blaming to go that route as well. Because like some of these kids just
I
don't know
wouldn't
better.
go that far at
There's
all. I feel
there's
like-
no agents and stuff in esports. These kids are like never had jobs or anything. It's just fresh out of like school. They're like, okay, let's play some Dots or let's play some CS. These guys are gonna pay us to do it. Let's do it. You know what I mean?
If your mom tells you that guy is a bad person, don't be friends with him, and then
Okay.
you become friends with him, and then you get dragged into his shit, you're gonna not tell me that no, you were the victim there because you didn't know better.
Come on,
No,
So
Some
okay,
of them
so
are underage though. Like,
I mean in the Bravado
Not
initial
all.
team, the guys, some of them were like 19, 20, right?
That's not. You're not you're not this like useless child at the age of 18. If someone's a bad person or they have a bad reputation,
Well, I mean, Carmel's a useless
know
child,
exactly
but
what that
I can't agree to that.
this is why Carmel's getting defensive. He's like, no, man, us YouTube. What are you guys, a YouTube generation, hey?
Fucking millennials to be useless, eh? But the point is, you're right. I think, again, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you, but at the same time, like, I know a lot of I see Dota players, man. They skill. You know what it is? They're playing Dota.
Right,
it's not like
enough.
IRL.
No, that's true. It's true.
I think that broader discussion is actually a good one, maybe for a future podcast, because there is that line of like, where is it your fault and where is it the org's fault for trying to mislead you or get away with things. And younger people can often, just in the enthusiasm of it. I mean, I think of it like having been involved in the music industry for a large portion of my working career. Is like people will be like, I got signed by a record label. Well, what did it do for you? What did it do to you? Did it put you in debt for the rest of your life? Or but nobody reads that. They're just like super excited. Hey, I'm going to be a star. Yeah, that sort of thing. And I mean, that's the equivalent of what happens in esports. Esports is that frontier. That doesn't really happen in music anymore because of the way it's gone. But esports being an emergent space, it is where there are kids that are being offered contracts that look hugely lucrative. But there's even sides to it where you could say, for instance, like, if you do get a huge contract and you get paid a lot, but you want to leave the team, you won't be able to leave the team because then your buyout from the team will be really high because of your salary. But nobody would have explained that to you in the first place. So now you're stuck here literally for the next 2 years, even if you hate it. And there's all sorts of permutations to it that they can catch you with. And if you're young, you could fall for it. And maybe you're not young and maybe you're just stupid. Who knows? But either way.
Look, I mean, in that sense, even if you're older, I mean, there are people like even outside of esports, just like in the working world, that get screwed over by by their contracts and those kind of things. So like from that point of view, I mean, in terms of like the contractual side, I mean, that's something I would sound like. We have a lawyer who would help us, obviously.
Shout out to Nadia.
Yeah, she would save us if we were in bad contracts, obviously. It's part of being part of the squad.
This is my mandate.
She only charges 16,000 rand an hour, reasonable rates.
Like a coffee a day. But but exposure. Actually, we're paying exposure bucks.
Sports bucks. We get called them esports bucks from now on.
but back to the point.
You'll die in a ditch, but people will know who you are, Nadia. That's important.
Please still recognize my body.
Oh wow,
that's what esports bucks are for, right?
Finishing off on that dark note. Contractually, that is quite difficult to navigate those kind of things. I mean, even this day, when I read contracts for like if I get when I get a new job or something, I read a contract. I don't know half of what it's saying really. I just go, does it say anyway something like awful? Like you look at some like obvious flags, but otherwise, do we really know what our contracts actually say? So
and even if you did, by the way, even if you did, you wouldn't be able to more often than not negotiate different terms.
Yeah.
Hey, I've done that before.
So, well,
Axe has some wild stories around that.
Yeah, in the esports space, I'm famously difficult with agreeing to contracts and stuff. Be like, no,
big
change
dick
that.
extremes.
Yeah. Hey, you want me? Yeah. Here I am. Just agree to my terms.
I wonder how much Esports Central are paying you. Okay.
They're paying me, or they're paying you? Wait, hang on, Camille, tell me, are they paying you?
We can negotiate at a better rate. I'm sure of it.
More exposure bucks all around. I mean, esports bucks.
Yeah, esports bucks.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think we're done on that one. Prof, did you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Well, we will move on. I'm going to bring up a little video for you guys now. A little bit of interactive entertainment. This should be a lot of fun. Oh, okay, wait. There we go. I've got it open on my side. You guys got it open? We'll 3, 2, 1 it.
Wait for it.
Yes, hold on. I actually want to.
I'm on.
Carmi was talking over it when I was trying to listen, obviously.
Can somebody post it in the WhatsApp because
I
my headset is plugged into my laptop.
In making the games, I think that we can.
And I swear, if I do this one more time,
Jeez,
I'm
wow.
gonna throw myself through the window.
Like we were saying, we've all had a great. Like we are totally.
Throw yourself through the window.
I'm fresh.
Cool, we get to go.
Yes.
And 1, 2, wait, 3, go.
Can have more female players being pros. And I remember saying that like really strongly. I believe that I'm not as like I'm more careful now about how I want to phrase it, but I do believe that old school esports games, StarCraft, Counter-Strike, Quake, are made out of skill sets that guys are inherently better at, which is pure raw reflexes, spatial orientation, these kind of things. And with the diversity of more people making the games, you'll have a skill set that is also more diverse, which will make women maybe try to be more involved because it's not just about men strengths that men have like from the base. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so pretty much if you look at Hearthstone, if you look at Overwatch, like these are games that require different skill sets than just aiming and spatial awareness. Like there's other kind of strategies that a woman that might not be the greatest at aiming can be good at and can find her voice, which means that having more women in game development will also make a better diverse range of esports games, which also help female pros get developed because it's not only going to be about pure reflexes, time. In StarCraft, it's like how do you call this? Like touch by time, like the keys.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. I think that's probably enough to get the gist of it. I thought that take was really interesting because generally speaking, when you hear about the differences between male and female players in competitive games, generally people go, well, it shouldn't be any different because it's not a physical sport. You're not running around or doing something physical. And there's a professional, Miss Harvey, on the DeSoto podcast there with Richard Lewis saying, she's a multiple-time world champion in female CS:GO, and she's actually saying that in her opinion there is some difference, and she feels that games should actually be developed by more diverse teams of developers, including more female developers, which would lead to the actual skill set in the game being more
diverse,
more suited, I guess, to different players. I mean, you and I, Gadloli, both played Team Fortress. You play Overwatch now. Those games are quite different to something like CS:GO, for instance, in the mechanics.
But also, what I was just thinking about that, I actually read an article back when I was playing TF2, and in TF2 I was kind of drawn to playing medic, which is standard girly class. But also then as you started to learn the game and get it, game sense and shit like that, I switched to scout. But I read somebody's thesis that was actually on TF2 specifically, where they wrote about why females are more drawn to playing support classes, for example, and it comes from this whole mental state and how you're raised and what our roles are supposed to be, and it's actually fascinating, but that annoyed me so much that I started playing Scout.
You're like, screw this, I'm backing the convention.
Let's shoot stuff. But still, note that I wasn't playing Sniper. So maybe it is true.
Well,
I like seeing like girls actually playing Overwatch and not falling straight into the I'm a Mercy main vibe, even though I have like 200 hours on Mercy myself. So interesting. I do actually agree with it. Because I'm that person too.
Nadia, you're a sexist. We're going to label you as that because that's what people would say if I'd said that. Well,
no, like, listen, no, I was just thinking, like, we've got in Overwatch, even locally, there's very little, obviously, like in Overwatch League, there's like one female, and she sometimes don't obviously get like playtime even. But I look at girls like Virgo Liz from 2CP Berserk Gaming, a diva off-tank player. She's fantastic. And it's also not in a standard kind of the role. You look at my friend Vertigo, she is a DPS player and also off-tank now. So maybe it's changing, but maybe it's also just how the game was actually made that makes those kind of roles more attractive for females. Could be.
Look, I mean, I would have to say, I mean, I've written about this like in the past, and I've like spoken to a lot of women about it as well, and even had interviews with some like women way back when I was writing. Well, I haven't written an article in like a long time. I feel
He has
bad.
spoken to women in interviews, ladies and gentlemen.
What a man! What a scholar!
What did we
What a
say that
laugh.
we've all had a tough week? What did we not all say that? All right. The point is, in the past, I've written about it, and a lot of things that came out was that there was everyone's saying there isn't a difference, there shouldn't be a difference, and that the real issues, the real barriers to why women weren't coming into the professional scene across various games or playing at the highest level was more of a social issue. So it was an idea of like how, again, and like Nada, you spoke about this in last week's episode, where kind of how women are treated in gaming, like how, the amount of sexism and like how easily dismissed they are, and those kind of stereotypes that are played on. That creates this kind of social anxiety that then creates this like social barrier, and that's kind of a big reason, or that was stated as a big reason why.
Certainly, I think it you can't look at it as just
It's not just one thing.
It is multifaceted, and that that words but it comes into play. But then I do see what she says, just like, but I'm saying that from my own experience as to what I choose to play in like multiplayer games. But what you're saying, that it very much has an effect on how girls, especially in the past, were drawn towards gaming. It was kind of like a boys thing when I was in school, at least. 50 years ago. Feels very long ago now.
But to the point, I'm saying that what she said now is actually such a new thing for me, which is really interesting here. And again, the fact that one, she's a professional, but also a game designer, I mean, she absolutely has a great idea of what she's saying. So it's just new for me, just like it's something new that I've never really thought of before. But it's a really interesting perspective, and like definitely something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, you can go first, Ax. Must I go first?
Okay, I'll quickly get it out the way. She also did an interview quite a while ago with Thorin as well, where they talked along similar lines, but not quite that. And what was interesting in that as well is she was also sort of backing up some of his views on it, because he'd done a video which a lot of people like roundly hated, where he was saying that the like physiological differences between men and women and how they like relate to how it relates to reaction time and aggression and all sorts of different things. And like you look at this ginger white man telling everybody, this is how it is.
You
and you
shoot
think,
slow.
yeah, but then she actually came and spoke like on an interview with him, and she was actually backing up some of what he was saying. And I also at the time found it a little bit like, are we sure that's the right thing? But maybe just it depends on who's saying it, and in this maybe a year or 2 years later, she sort of refined the way she explains it, because she does also say in this interview, if you let it go a little bit longer, that she doesn't always like talking about the subject because it's really hard to explain and to get it out in a way that necessarily doesn't like alienate half the audience.
What I was just thinking, like if you're talking about like physiological and stuff like that, I can't see necessarily. I can understand like reflexes slowing down as you get older, and I can see, the lack of the mental thing I mentioned, where women are pushed towards a nurturing role. But I don't see things like game sense being because that's something I kind of pride myself on. I normally know, because even if you do play support, you learn game sense and what's going on around you, and how to deal with it, how to react, what's going to happen, things like that. And that's very important in gaming. But I don't know if there's been any studies or anything actually showing that a man has better reflexes or anything like that.
I doubt that it really is different, because even if it comes down to it, like between a 40-year-old and an 18-year-old, the difference is like 40 milliseconds, which is actually nothing.
But the one thing that I would say is that I think more men are more naturally aggressive and may have a more naturally aggressive play style, and I think that can have an effect, surely. But yeah, it's interesting.
I will say I tend to go towards the support role in games that I play.
he is a 14-year-old girl, so
you're correct. You're correct. No, look, like League of Legends are actually like, okay, well, League of Legends I played bot lane, so that's both AD carry and support. I actually prefer the support role more. I think it teaches you game sense a lot better, because you have to pay attention to absolutely everybody. Like support roles, but support role actually League of Legends, you can be the more dominant laner. Like when I would play support, I would tell my AD carry, this is what we're gonna do, this is how it's gonna happen, shut the fuck up and listen. But then I went to play Overwatch. That game died in my mind very quickly. I think I played it for like 2 months. And I was like, yeah, shit. Just click a button, fly around, look pretty, piss everyone off when you revive everyone. Like, what more do you want in a game? That was who I played the most of.
It's been a long time since you've been pretty, Glenn.
I want my wings. I'm an
Before
angel.
Beth.
You're going to say something, Carmel. Sorry.
Yes, I've been waiting for a while. So back to Miss Harvey's initial point, and I want to also just touch on the point of like she has to tiptoe around these issues because it's clear to see why just in South African esports view that whenever the topic of female league comes out, all the fucking incels lose their mind on Twitter. Fuck him. So like she's forced, being the expert in this thing, to like tiptoe around it, you know? But back to your point, like, or to her point, sorry, is that I completely agree with the sentiment that if you have more women in game development, you would see a more diverse field of games. You wouldn't just see 10 battle royales because that's what all the fucking 35-year-old dickheads think is the good way to go. It's where you have new, fresh people doing new things. And I gave the same example when I was arguing with a friend about like diversity in Hollywood. And when always the arguments come up, and I don't think Ridley Scott is ever going to give a fuck about having good African representation in movies. But if you give an African director or a woman director or a minority or some diverse director a chance to make a movie, he will make it conscious of those factors because it's something that he cares about. Ridley Scott is never going to care.
That's like a Jordan Peele
40
thing. Like, hasn't he said that his movies are always generally going to have a African American lead because him being African American responds more to those sorts of characters.
For sure. And I mean, we see like a Black Panther is a good example of a movie where you let black people make a movie about a black superhero. You have the best fucking soundtrack of the whole year and a good movie, right? But back to the point of the female game dev, I think it's the same thing in game development. If you have more women in the industry, you will get a more diverse view of things. Because like if you just have Indian guys designing cars, right, between the ages of 16 and 30, you're only going to see GTIs on the road. And that's like the fucking point. You don't want to see only GTIs on the fucking road.
What color will the wheels be?
Audis and BMWs and fucking...
My head went completely the different way. I was like thinking Indian guys. Okay, what is an Indian car brand? Tata?
Yo.
And that's where it stopped.
I'm living in 15 years ago. I was going to say a Camry or a Cressida, bro. But...
Okay, but that's like Indian uncles, though. Like that's like going to the old people. You guys don't know my demographic, man. A GTI poster's here on the wall somewhere. You guys can't see it in the shot.
So wait. Question for you, Camille. What color will the wheels on the car be?
My rims?
Yes.
Your rims, yes.
Black, of course.
Not gold.
We were all expecting gold there. Like you've just, we're racially stereotyping you right now, Camille.
You guys are all getting fired.
Don't say we. I have not contributed to this conversation.
I wanted you to be in on it with us.
Color be diverse, and we can be politically correct. That's proving the point again of Miss Harvey. Subjugated, yeah. So I'm sending a letter to the editor complaining to HR.
Prof, you got anything on this?
HR department. We actually should make sure we have an HR department.
We should get one.
Although basically, Carmel, you're now like Dwight and Jim at the office. Obviously, I'm Jim and then you're Dwight. That goes without saying. But I feel like that's what this is. It's just that's the dynamic we have going on. So
I would just like to see what complaints actually would. Oh wait.
It'll just be me and Glenn complaining about it. Be like, Glenn fucking said that to me.
See, like in any great series of any kind that goes over a long period of time. I mean, we're into 42 episodes now. There's actually a story arc that carries from the first episode right until the end. And what that is this love affair between Glenn and Carmel. And what we'll find out in another 150 episodes is really who loves who the most.
I think that writing is worse than the Game of Thrones.
Did
I do that right?
Are we dealing with Ross and Rachel here, though?
I actually want to say, if that is indeed the case, then you can also go back. I was played by different actresses.
Yes. In season 1, yes.
Nick Holden played the gutter lady role once. Richard Beatles filled in a few times. You know. They even got the role.
They're just minor supporting characters, you know. We're talking main cast right now. But what we'll do Game of Thrones style is we'll build up to this epic love story, and at the end it'll turn out that one of them will be crazy and just destroy stuff.
No, we'll just have like completely irrelevant characters kill off people that they've had nothing to do with for the entire 6 seasons. We'll just have Sargon walk in and then just like character assassinate Nadia or something, despite him never
my
having
God.
anything to do with.
Okay,
So
now
random.
to be on the topic
Wow.
of Game of Thrones, did you guys hear Dan and Dan's fucking explanation? And I know I call them Dan and Dan because they have half a brain each, so they can have the same name, you know? So did you hear the explanation about why Daenerys' fleet
I feel
got...
like big spoiler
She
stuff. Like,
forgot
you wanna just
Okay,
let
you know
people
what? Let's
know?
not talk about Game of Thrones this episode because
Giant
I'm
spoilers.
going to lose
Cut
it.
that.
I just wanted to bitch about the writing because all the cool people do that, and then I want to bitch about the people that bitch about the writing because then the other cool people do that.
I want to
And
bitch
then
about
that's
people
Game of
bitching
Thrones.
about spoilers.
I want to discuss the writing, and then everybody's like, "You're bitching about it." I'm like, "Okay, fine."
That's
What
Tell
about
you
we
what,
talk about
guys.
How would...
We're going to make another podcast where we talk about this kind of thing. Look out for that one. Soon.
Great segue. Love it.
Sweet. Anything
Where are
else
we now?
on this previous story? Prof, did you have anything? Okay. We will be moving on. So I think we are going over to some more, just as we were getting racist on Carmel there, we need to actually bring out the real stuff. We were just joking, but there's some real stuff going on. And you and I were talking about this not so long ago, right, Carmel?
Yes, the Rick Fox shenanigans. The story has gotten bigger. Am I going to do the segue or you want to take it over, Gata Lily?
No, you can go. I honestly don't care. And also, I was gonna ask, how do you pronounce Amit Razada, which is a very white thing of me to do.
Wait, what's his next name?
I think you
I'm
did
right,
pronounce
I
it
don't
right,
know.
actually.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
myself, so I'm not going to comment. But basically, the Rick Fox story has blown up even more, where it's not just racism and shit he had to put up with. It's death threats to his... Well, not death. It wasn't death threats. It was... Wait, I'm going to find the quote here.
It was
And then
threatening
the
he's
quote
threatening to
is-
harm his family.
If he does not do his
Oh.
duties, I'll personally fuck him. Somebody please don't clip that part. And his family for the rest of my life in any way possible. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, and there's the other part where Rick Fox says that he's been called a sand N-word multiple times, which is...
No, the whole
First part.
thing's really fucked. And the worst, what's so bad about it as well is the guy Rizada, who's being accused of doing all of these things, actually said it never happened at all, and then Rick Fox proved this point that actually it did, and then secondly also said that him and Rick Fox have been friends for 20 years, and then Rick Fox also had to clarify and go, nope.
I've known who he is for 20
we met
years.
20 years ago. Didn't even start doing business until in the last couple of years, and then now he regrets doing all of those things. And it's just, and then on top of that, this guy was also racist to someone else, made racist remarks to another
Yeah.
person in the company. So it's just blown up into this giant thing. And I mean, I know we spoke about it before when the issue first came up, but it made me so angry. It's one of those things that pisses me off that it had to blow up before we actually took it seriously. It's the same thing as with sexism. It's one of those things that an issue that's part of gaming and part of esports, and it's kind of just left there unsaid. It's not really tackled until they have to. Why is Echo Fox waiting for the media to release the story before going, oh, we don't condone this. We're going to totally get rid of this person. Sorry, what? Why would you have to wait until there's a PR problem before you go, oh, let's have the back of one of our founders? You know what I mean? It's Rick Fox. He's part of your brand. Why would you not have?
Do you think it would be a money
that?
reason where they're this guy's bringing so much money to our org that we're just going to try and turn a blind eye to the crazy shit that he's doing?
I think it's also basically a politics thing. I think it's because people inside just don't care enough. It's the kind of thing, again, where someone says something racial in game, and people are just either awkwardly laugh or don't say anything. But very few people often go, hey, that's not cool. And I feel that that's what you're seeing in this Rick Fox situation again. Because again, it's esports gaming. It's always a thing like that where no one wanted to step in and actually say that's crossed the line. What had to happen? Media had to make it a thing. And Rick Fox didn't even want to get into it. So
I don't think
it's
it's necessarily an esports or a gaming thing. I mean, the way the world is currently speeding
sure.
backwards, all progress has been lost. I kind of feel that's what's currently happening. So it's everywhere. But
Yeah.
in all these big companies, it's coming forward, and then it's only coming forward because it's hitting the media. It's like Telkom only doing something if you complain. They haven't responded to my tweet.
That's everything.
Very
They'll
true.
ignore it. The thing is, that's everybody. It's they'll ignore it until it becomes a big enough issue
Yeah.
that they have to deal with it.
What was
Well,
that
ignore
Hollywood
this is not part of
director?
the issue, though. Huh?
That big Hollywood director.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein was basically just
Producer, not
apparently
director, but yeah.
producer going around bins, digging stuff, and I should not have said that. But anyways,
I mean,
like
there's the story in the what is it? One of the members of the Korean boy band Big Bang.
good grief.
He's just like retired from everything because of the stories that have just come out about him.
It's just crazy. It only becomes an issue once it comes out, and then people know about this for like 30, 20 years. It's
That's. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that movie Spotlight, but there was a great line in there that is like, if it takes a village to raise a child, it also takes a village to abuse one. Because if you look at the
yes,
that's the whole thing with racism, right? It's not racism is not a personal thing. Getting called like a K word or like an Indian racial slur or something, it's terrible. Shit, as a person to deal with that is bad, but that's not what racism is. A systematic thing. It's every facet of society is there putting you down, and obviously, like Gabriel says, it's a way bigger issue than esports. But in esports, we need to have a zero tolerance policy for this, in my opinion, because we are young, we're still establishing, and we can't be like football and Luis Suarez can say whatever the fuck he wants, and then he gets a slap on the wrist for like $15,000 penalty. That's nothing. That changes nothing. Punish these motherfuckers.
Yeah. Look, but like to that point, so obviously following on with this Rick Fox thing now, when obviously the story came out, Riot Games also said we are going to investigate, well, specifically LCS, obviously where Echo Fox is playing in the NA region. LCS team actually said we're going to investigate this as well, and we will get back to you with the result. And so I think what you're saying, Monte Cristo tweeted out what happened, post that, following that.
He just retweeted.
Oh, retweeted it. Okay.
LCS made a judgment that like Echo Fox has 60 days to remove the
individual
or individuals in this situation, or the future of Echo Fox can not be guaranteed, which in
it's a pretty big thing.
Is basically like you will be forced to sell your franchise.
Yeah. And so on that point, sorry.
It's a massive move if that is what is ultimately going to be the effect. That's a very strong stance.
Absolutely, and that's my thing. So moving away necessarily from like the racial side, because obviously Riot's saying we don't condone that, and it's great, but it's also a scary precedent to set where Riot is basically deciding whether a team lives or dies in its franchise. Like the actual implications of that means that if Riot ever has a disagreement with the company, and it could be about anything, like here obviously it's a racial thing, and we're all on the same side for that because fuck racism, don't want to deal with it. But really what Riot is saying is if we don't like the code of conduct that you're doing or the way you're running your business, we can kick you out. Yeah. Which is a little scary to set as a precedent because like legally it has a lot of big implications and it goes back to the narrative that Riot keeps struggling to move away from. Is they have a very authoritative dictatorship. Like they have a very strong will and they have a strong hand in everything that happens. And that's not really a great thing to see if you are a team owner or a team org or an investor trying to come in, knowing that Riot is going to give an ultimatum like that.
The thing is, in this sort of situation, like I don't think it should have been Riot's decision. I think it should have been the rest of the league's decision. Like there was that situation in the NBA. What was it, like 2, maybe 3 years ago, where one of the owners also like made like super disparaging comments about a racial group, and the rest of the league banded together and were like, "We do not want you as an owner. Get out." And he was removed as an owner of the team. Now that is how it should be run.
Yeah.
Whereas when you have one group or like one person in this case, Riot, able to make that decision, like if you look at the Monte Cristo decision, right? So in this case, 60 days is given to Echo Fox to remove the individual. Monte Cristo had 10. Now, explain to me how he's going to get any sort of value on his business.
And that was also not a situation of racism. It was sort of a hearsay, not even proven thing.
Furious arguments about a dangerous work environment.
But that wasn't. I mean, okay, that wasn't all of it. But to your point, like they've been inconsistent for sure, and it's a thing that they've been called out on before in the past. And the big problem with it is again, because they are the ones that decide everything. and have such a strong control over everything. If you're going to be inconsistent, you're going to get given shit for it, and rightfully so. And Monte Cristo has been upset about that for a long time. And again, because one, the community didn't agree with the way that Riot went about it with Monte Cristo. They seem to take things very personally, almost like it's a slight to them that what they've done, and that's not how you can't run a league like that. It can't work like that. And so with this thing, the 60-day thing is cool, but again, for Riot to come and get involved in the runnings of someone else's business, to me, I don't think that's a great precedent, regardless of what the issue is.
Like, I fully agree with the decision that was made, but it should not have been made by Riot. It should have been made by the rest of the teams in the league.
Yeah.
The rest of the owners in the league saying, we don't want you, get out.
I guess because it's ultimately it's not supposed to, because what they want to force is basically get rid of this person and everything else will be okay. So you're not screwing over the team and everybody involved with them. But for them, the most important thing will be the next time something like this comes up, the same punishment needs to be handed out. And that only remains to be seen. It doesn't matter what they did before, as long as they go on and it's going to be the same.
Because if they tried to proportionally respond in the same way that they did in 2015 with the Renegades Monte Cristo situation, then it would have been literally like where he had to notify you that within 60 seconds the nuclear missiles will be landing in your backyard kind of thing. Because that's how disproportionate these two things actually were.
No, but look, also to be fair, franchising wasn't there yet. So there is also that other side of it where when a company has bought in now, they have a little bit more protection than they would have had if a team just came in and worked their way through the league. So it also is a very different time when it happened with Monte Cristo to what it is now. And so I think there is that element of it as well that we have to obviously factor in. So
at least there's punishment, eh? At least they're doing something, because we were saying 2 weeks ago that there needed to be something. It can't be like deafening silence. And obviously in Riot's case as well, with their own recent troubles that we spoke about at some great length related to sexism in the workplace and systemic at that, they probably also feel the pressure to actually do something, because a lot of people saying they're not doing enough about that particular situation. So let's hope that this again falls within that whole thing of forcing Riot to change, because they've always been the Combine and the scene's been City 17, and it probably needs to be a little bit more democratic than that.
Yeah.
We are back, guys. You may notice there's 4 of us instead of 5 of us, except if you're listening to this, but then listen properly. It's very important. Unfortunately, Glenn is not able to finish the podcast because of some technical issues with his internet. It's Africa problems, I guess you could say, or just people who don't have fiber problems. The rest of us are fine on our fiber lines, right?
Yeah. Much.
Yeah, so sorry, Glenn. We had some really cool things to talk about, and actually most of them were Glenn's things to talk about, and we've now been debating for a few minutes now off screen, like what are we actually going to do. But the thing is, we need the fire, we need the flame, and we need the fire starter, and unfortunately he's all 3 and he's not here. So we're actually going to call it there, guys. It's a shorter podcast than usual, but I think we hit on some crazy stuff. I mean, we spoke about racism, we spoke about sexism, we just have to hit politics there, and then we've hit the trifecta. Actually, in fact, we should add religion in too, but nobody knows about the original recording.
I mean, voting day is over now. We can retire in politics again,
Yeah, we can leave that one out. So I think that'll be the podcast for this week, guys. We've got a lot to talk about next week. Next week's going to be a bumper episode for sure, because of everything that we're having to put on the back burner for now. But in the meantime, if you want to check out anything to do with esports, definitely head on over to esportscentral.co.za, where you can find out all the latest that's happening in South African esports. Also on Twitter at esportscntrl, and on Facebook at esportscentralza. The next episode of this particular podcast will be coming your way next week, the 22nd of May 2019, and that will be episode number 43. I have it as 42 in the list here, and I just had to double check that I'm not crazy. It's definitely episode 43. We're not doing a double episode. Look out for that. Also, you can follow us all individually on Twitter. I'm Extremes. You find me at Extremes. Carmel as at KChickte. Glenn, who's not here, sadly dearly departed, at G_KAYY. We've got at Saint Gutterlily for Nadia. And, of course, Sean is at Prophecy Gaming, and that's with a CI. And, of course, you can see it if you're watching, and if you're listening to it, check it out in the description below. Stick with us for next week. We Appreciate those of you who have been with us for 42 episodes, and those of you who are new, welcome. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Cheers.
Cheerio.